From this point on, I think we can expect to regularly hear a lot of Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren comparisons for the good part of the next decade. But I think right now, one big problem in terms of making that comparison is that it could be very tricky. Well, sure, Wembanyama and Holmgren are both rookies who have untraditional skill sets for guys who stand above 7 feet tall, but the thing is, the details upon which they individually operate are strikingly different. Well, first, Wembanyama carries the burden of being the main guy for a San Antonio Spurs team that faces a talent deficit almost on a nightly basis, which is why they've rightfully made Wembanyama the focal point of everything they do on both ends of the floor. He's already the team's leading scorer and main defensive anchor, but notably, the Spurs are currently playing the long game as a rebuilding team, so whatever marginal success or failures they achieve this season won't really change much of their timeline. But on the other hand, Chet Holmgren has entered the NBA with arguably a more difficult task. He has to immediately fit in on a young OKC Thunder team that already has one superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a lot of budding young talent at nearly every position. But despite that, Holmgren's unique skill set is already expected to be the deciding X factor that could either make or break OKC's hopes of making it back to NBA playoff contention by the end of the season, even while he faces some unfair comparisons to his French counterpart in San Antonio. Well, that sounds like a ton of pressure for Chet Holmgren, but he's actually played even better than expected. His high-level averages of more than 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, and 1 steal per game are already impressive on their own, but also, while most rookies are struggling to stay efficient early in their NBA careers, Chet has been doing the opposite by shooting almost 55% from the field, 50% from the three-point line, and 89% from the foul line, which is ridiculous efficiency. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, let's dive deeper into how Chet Holmgren has actually become the perfect unicorn for the OKC Thunder. So let's get to it. Well, it's based on an early season sample size, but currently, the OKC Thunder are the 5th best three-point shooting team in the entire NBA, and a lot of this is mostly due to Chet Holmgren's arrival and how he has immediately stepped in as the best three-point shooter in OKC's starting lineup right from day one. Well, sure, Dort has been exceptionally great, shooting around 53% from behind the arc to start the season, but he's never really been known as a consistent sniper from deep, as Dort's only been a career 34% three-point shooter. Chet Holmgren, on the other hand, has consistently been known as a knockdown shooter even before he stepped into the NBA, and has rode that shooting momentum from being an almost 40% three-point shooter in college to converting 50% of his three-pointers so far in OKC. Chet Holmgren has just looked like the perfect catch-and-shoot stretch big man that the Thunder have long been waiting for to complement their ball handlers. In fact, right now, only Stephen Curry has a higher catch-and-shoot three-point mark than Chet Holmgren among all players to have attempted at least 25 spot-up threes this season. What's crazy though is that somehow defenders haven't been giving Chet the respect that he deserves as a shooter. As per NBA advanced statistics, after his first 10 NBA games, a whopping 83% of Chet's three-point attempts have been wide open, which means the nearest defender is at least 6 feet away from him. But I think it's also hard to blame defenses for this, with SGA currently leading the NBA again in drives per game for the 4th straight season. His scoring gravity as he goes downhill just pulls the defense so much away from the perimeter, which opens up the floor for OKC shooters. Chet Holmgren in particular has been benefiting from this, as almost half of Chet's three-point field goals this season have actually been assisted by Shai. Right here, you can see Chet with a dribble handoff to Shai, and as Chet sets the ball screen, the threat of SGA drive-in already has got Jalen Duren dropping down to the paint. But then you see Shai also pulling Ozar Thompson behind him, which leaves Chet with a ton of space from behind the arc. So Shai just hits him right in the shooting pocket, as Detroit's defense just has no chance of recovering at all. Then again here, you can see Chet setting up a high screen for Shai. Shai rejects the pick and plays into the drop defense, allowing Chet to flare out to the three-point line. And at this point, you can see that Jokic is just too far away to properly guard Chet's three-point shot. Well, it's only going to be a matter of time before defenses realize that they just can't give Holmgren this much daylight from the perimeter, which means that soon, Chet will most likely be hounded by more aggressive closeouts. The good thing is, Chet is already capable of attacking those closeouts, because for a 7-footer, he's got a really solid handle and an impressive bag, which enables him to either get to the rim or pull up from the mid-range off the bounce. But what's even crazier is that he's often too quick for bigger centers, but is also too long and lengthy for wings to guard. guard. And you can also just see some Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in him with how he uses some of his subtle spin moves, euro steps, and hesitation dribbles when he attacks the lane. Right here, you can see Jarrett Allen initially doing a good job of trying to close out on Chet, but watch how Chet turns to his handle, using that quick right-to-left crossover which opens up space for him to drive. Allen does a solid job of recovering in the paint, but watch Chet lose him with a quick spin move that turns into a Dirk Nowitzki-like mid-range fadeaway jumper that is simply unguardable. This time, upon receiving the pass, Chet doesn't even give Andrew Wiggins a chance to close out. He immediately attacks the lane and uses the quick spin move before losing Wiggins with a smooth up and under as he finishes right at the basket. Then here, you can see Chet setting up Sabonis in isolation from way behind the arc. He uses that quick behind the leg dribble to create momentum, and as he drives, he actually takes a bump from Sabonis, but his size and length just overpowers the big man in the paint as Chet finishes the end one. Also, one reason why I love seeing Chet really being aggressive like that and drives is because, despite him not having a lot of muscle to move defenders, his long arms just invites a lot of contact, and because of that, Chet is actually drawing 3.6 personal fouls per game, which ranks in the 90th percentile among all big men in terms of drawing fouls this season, which in turn definitely works to Chet's advantage with him being an excellent free throw shooter. But aside from getting buckets for OKC in a lot of different ways, Chet has also displayed flashes of being a solid playmaker. For a guy his size, Chet's passing ability is actually above average. He's already capable of making advanced passing reads both in the half court and in transition, which is further empowered by his ability to put the ball on the floor. Right here, you can see Chet bringing the ball down court and running the break by himself. Watch how he just blows past Trae Young before pulling off this nasty left-handed behind the back pass, setting up Cason Wallace for the fast break finish. Then here, watch Chet leverage his three-point shot to set up his teammate. He pump fakes against two defenders, and now, seeing that the lone man is deep into the paint and can't rotate quick enough to the corner, Chet makes the right read and kicks it out to Cason Wallace, who's got enough daylight to knock down the three-pointer. Then this time, looking like a true point center, Chet brings the ball down court and uses the pin down screen from J-Dub to get an initial advantage. Right here, he collapses the Warriors defense in the paint, and seeing the tiny passing window in the baseline, he dishes the bounce pass, setting up Cason Wallace under the basket. Those plays with a big man like Chet Holmgren setting up a guard like Cason Wallace in three different scenarios just shows Holmgren's versatility and how his presence already unlocks a lot of different lineup combinations for OKC's positionless system. With his ball handling, his shooting touch, and his emerging ability as a shot creator, you could just imagine the endless possibilities in terms of what he can become as an offensive force for OKC moving forward. However, on the defensive end, we don't even need to use our imagination anymore to visualize how Chet changes everything on the floor, because right now, he is already a transformative force for the Thunder on defense. With the complete package of size, mobility, timing, and physicality, Chet easily blocks or alters any shot taken around him, whether it be on the paint or the perimeter. Sure, he would benefit from adding more muscle, as we saw how Nikola Jokic basically pushed him around in the paint. To be fair though, Jokic pretty much does that to every other big man in the league. But the thing is, Jonas Valanciunas also didn't have any trouble doing whatever he wanted around the paint with Chet lurking around. But looking at it, there aren't many old school big men with enough of a post game to actually threaten Holmgren consistently, and against normal sized big men, Chet's basically made of rubber. He takes hits, but then he bounces back to contest shots with the help of his 7.5-foot wingspan and his quick feet. Here, as a drop coverage defender against the Cavs, you can see how Chet does a great job of icing Donovan Mitchell here and then tracking Evan Mobley in the paint after the pass. Right here, Mobley initially moves Chet with a power move, but just watch Chet recover with a quick second jump as he stifles Mobley with a block. Then here, Chet starts off guarding Clint Capella. Atlanta runs a give-and-go action here with DeJounte Murray running into the lane, but just watch how Chet shifts his hip and quickly gets into the paint as he completely denies Murray and saves the ball inbound, securing the possession for OKC. Overall, to say that Chet's been an effective interior defender so far is an understatement, as currently, offensive players are shooting 11% worse within 6 feet of the basket when Chet is the nearest defender. That's actually double Anthony Davis' defensive impact for the Lakers right now. Plus, Chet is also contesting a whopping 58% of opponent shots at the rim when he's on the floor, which defensive contest rate is actually the best in the NBA among all big men. But the thing is, even his impressive impact as a shot blocker in the paint doesn't even fully capture the totality of what he does on defense. Chet also moves fluidly and instinctively on the perimeter. Sometimes you would see him closing out on a shooter from the three-point line and then suddenly jumping into the paint to guard somebody else just a few seconds later. And though he might not always get a block, Chet does contest a ton of shots wherever he is on the floor. In fact, Chet is currently contesting an average of 13.3 shots per game, which is currently the second most in the NBA, only behind Brook Lopez. In this transition play by the Cavs, you can see Chet establishing position in the paint on early offense, but then on the side of a potential three-point shot, Chet quickly closes out on Max Strus. Strus blows by him in the baseline, but Chet's presence still forces him to give up the ball. Now Chet shifts his focus in Mobley and just doesn't give him any space to get a shot off before he completely rejects Mobley in the end. Again here, you can see Chet jumping out to the corner to deny Max Strus an open three-pointer. Strus gets him with a shot fake and decides instead to set up Okoro, who's open in the opposite corner, but then watch Chet rush from baseline to hound Okoro, even stalking him into the paint until the guy is forced to give up the ball. Again, we already heard the part about how Chet Holmgren adding a little bit more muscle should make him a far more dangerous player in the long run, but even right now, Chet's positional advantages and unique two-way skill set already makes him that rare unicorn who raises both the floor and the ceiling for OKC. For sure, the Thunder already look like playoff contenders, but how good Chet Holmgren becomes in the near future will help determine how quickly OKC becomes a championship-level team. So thank you guys if you've actually made it this far into the video, but what are your actual thoughts on Chet Holmgren's potential? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this has been Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.